I know life hasn't been easy for you. Maybe you lie awake at night, quietly battling fears and doubts that no one else sees. You have wishes, deep desires for happiness, success, love, inner peace, yet something inside keeps whispering that you're not enough, or that life just won't turn out the way you hope. It's exhausting, isn't it? You might feel a weight on your chest each morning, dragging into the day with the burden of unmet expectations. You're not alone in feeling this way. How many of us silently carry the pain of dreams deferred and beliefs that will never truly be happy? Take a moment to recognize these feelings. The frustration, the loneliness, the worry about the future. They're real and they're valid. In a world that often tells us to be positive or have it all figured out, you might even feel guilty for struggling. But I want you to know it's okay to feel what you feel. In fact, acknowledging that inner turmoil is the first step toward change. How can we begin to heal or grow if we don't first face our own emotions and struggles head on? By admitting, even just to yourself, yes, I am struggling and it hurts, you open the door to compassion. The same compassion I want you to show to yourself right now. Do you ever feel trapped by your own thoughts? Like invisible chains are holding you back from reaching your true potential? Those chains are often made up of limiting beliefs, the deeply ingrained stories we tell ourselves about who we are and what we can or cannot do. Perhaps you believe I'm not good enough, I always fail, or I don't deserve happiness. These beliefs take root over years, shaped by past disappointments, criticisms, or comparisons. They can become so familiar that we start to accept them as facts of life. But they're not facts, they're just beliefs. And like any belief, they can be questioned and changed. Think of a circus elephant tied with a small rope. When it was a baby, that rope was strong enough to hold it. Now, as a full-grown elephant, it could easily break free, but it doesn't even try. It believes the rope still limits it. We often behave the same way. Our minds are powerful, and if they've been conditioned to see a rope, a past hurt or failure, as unbreakable, we stop trying to pull against it. What ropes are holding you? Maybe a childhood label, the shy one, the troublemaker, or a past failure in business or love that convinced you, why bother trying? These limiting beliefs live in our unconscious minds, quietly scripting our lives. The psychologist Carl Jung warned that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. In other words, if you don't shine a light on these hidden beliefs, you'll continue to feel stuck, as if some outside force is controlling your destiny. But it's not fate, it's you. And this is wonderful news, because it means you can change it. By becoming aware of the stories running through your head, you reclaim the power to rewrite them. Let me share a vivid metaphor. Imagine a flea trapped in a glass jar. At first, the flea jumps high, but it keeps hitting the lid. Over time, it learns to jump only as high as the lid allows. Eventually, the lid is removed, yet the flea never jumps out. It's convinced it can't escape, so it lives the rest of its life confined by a barrier that's no longer there. Are you living inside a jar with the lid off? What opportunities or happiness might be just outside your self-imposed ceiling? We all have these jar lids, a painful rejection that now makes you afraid to open your heart, or a job loss that makes you think you'll never succeed. But those were just experiences. They don't have to define what's possible for you going forward. Challenge your beliefs. When a thought says, I can't, pause and ask, can't I really? Or am I just afraid? Treat that thought like a curious scientist would. Examine it, test it. If you believe you're not smart enough, Recall times you did learn and succeed despite difficulty. If you think, "I'll never find love," question that finality. Is it true, or just protecting you from potential hurt? Every time you question a limiting belief, you weaken its hold. You loosen one link in that chain. And with each link that falls away, you grow a little freer to pursue the life you want, not the one your fears would choose for you. Life will always have challenges. That's something we can't change. But what if I told you that how your life feels has far more to do with how you look at things than with what actually happens? Two people can experience the exact same event, say, the loss of a job, and one sees it as a devastating failure, while the other sees an opportunity to change course to something better. Why is that? It comes down to perspective. One person interprets the job loss as, "I'm worthless." The other interprets it as, "This job wasn't right for me. I'll find a new path." The event is the same. The outcomes diverge based on each person's mindset. Over 2,000 years ago, the Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught this truth. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. When something happens, the only thing in your power is your attitude toward it. You can either accept it or resent it. Read that again. We don't control many of the events in our lives: the economy, other people's choices, the weather, sudden changes. But we do control how we respond. We get to assign the meaning. Another Stoic line sums it up. Men are disturbed not by things, but by the view which they take of them. How you view what happens is everything. Modern psychology echoes this idea. Therapists talk about cognitive reframing, the practice of actively reinterpreting situations to find a more positive or realistic perspective. And researchers have a concept called internal locus of control, which basically means believing that your own actions and attitudes significantly influence the outcomes in your life. People with an internal locus of control tend to see themselves as the authors of their story, rather than victims of circumstance. They feel empowered, resilient, and more optimistic because they focus on what they can do rather than what's done to them. Developing this internal locus of control is immensely liberating. It means taking personal responsibility for your life. Not in a blaming way. Remember, we're being compassionate with ourselves, but in an empowering way. If you accept that I am responsible for how I experience my life, then every situation, good or bad, becomes an opportunity. You can't always choose what happens, but you can always choose your next move, even if 90% of a problem was caused by external forces. Ask yourself, what can I do with the remaining 10%? There is always something you can do, even if it's just choosing your attitude. One incredible example of this power of perspective comes from Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist who survived the horrors of a World War II concentration camp. In that unimaginable suffering, Frankl discovered that while everything can be taken from a person, one thing remains: the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. He observed that those who held on to meaning and hope, who focused on their inner freedom, were more likely to survive and rebuild their lives. Now, I pray none of us ever faces such extreme adversity, but Frankl's insight applies to our daily struggles. Your attitude is your own. No matter how restrictive or unfair a situation is, you can always choose how to view it and what lesson to take from it. So I ask you, how are you interpreting the events in your life? When something bad happens, a breakup, a mistake, a setback, do you tell yourself it's the end of the world? Or do you ask, what can I learn from this? How can I grow? The magic is that by changing your interpretation, you change how you feel, and you change what you do next. a closed door can be seen as a dead end or as redirection to something new. Which will you choose? When you embrace this power of perspective, you start to see that, in a way, you can achieve every wish in your life. Not because life becomes perfect, it won't, but because you realize your deepest wish isn't for a specific job, or a certain amount of money, or for everyone to like you. What you truly wish for is a sense of fulfillment, meaning, and peace. And those are states of mind, achieved from within. Change how you see your life, and you change your life. As the Stoics would say, the obstacle becomes the way. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Every challenge is simply a stepping stone, if you choose to step on it. By now, you understand that the key to achieving every wish lies not in magically controlling external events, but in mastering your inner world, your mindset. So how do you put this understanding into practice? It's time to talk about actionable mindset shifts you can start using today to break free from limiting thoughts and create the life you desire. These are not one-time actions, but daily practices, ways of approaching life that build your mental muscle over time. Think of them as the inner skills for happiness and resilience. As you cultivate these skills, you'll find that the things you truly wish for, confidence, purpose, joy, peace, start to grow naturally in your life. Let's dive into 3 fundamental mindset shifts: acceptance, detachment, and resilience. 1. Acceptance. Life is full of things we cannot change. Aging, the past, other people's actions, sudden losses, so much is beyond our control. Fighting or denying this truth only causes us pain. Acceptance is the courageous choice to face reality as it is, rather than how we wish it would be. This isn't about resignation or saying you'll never try to improve things. It's about acknowledging what's out of your hands so you can focus on what is in your hands. For example, you can't undo a mistake you made yesterday, but you can choose to learn from it today. You can't force someone to love you, but you can pour love into yourself and those already in your life. Acceptance is deeply freeing. It's like setting down a heavy backpack you've been hauling around. The Stoics teach this well. Don't demand or expect that events happen as you would wish them to. Accept events as they actually happen. That way, peace is possible. When you practice acceptance, you reclaim energy that was wasted raging against the unchangeable. You make peace with the present moment. And from that place of peace, you can act more effectively on the things you can change. 2. Detachment. If acceptance is about coming to terms with what you can't control, detachment is about easing your grip on the things you do want to control. It's natural to have goals, desires, and dreams. To want a certain job, relationship, lifestyle. These can motivate us, but if we become too attached to a specific outcome, we set ourselves up for suffering. Detachment means loving without clinging, pursuing without obsessing. Imagine holding sand in your hand. If you squeeze it tightly, it pours out through your fist. If you hold it gently, it remains. Likewise, hold your dreams with an open hand. Give them effort and attention, but don't twist your happiness and self-worth around a single narrowly defined result. What if the joy is in the journey itself? The Bhagavad Gita, an ancient text, advises to focus on your actions and detach from the fruits of those actions. This echoes in many philosophies. Do your best, but let go of the need to control every outcome. When you practice detachment, you remain calm and centered whether things go your way or not. Paradoxically, This makes you more effective in achieving your wishes, because you're not derailed by fear of failure or consumed by anxiety. You can make clear decisions and adapt to life's twists, since your sense of self isn't tied to one fragile result. Detachment is not indifference. It's trusting the process and knowing that you'll be okay either way. 3. Resilience. Life will knock you down, that's a guarantee. Resilience is the mindset that no matter how hard you fall, you can and will get back up. It's about seeing challenges as opportunities in disguise. Every setback carries a lesson. Every failure can fuel future success. When you adopt resilience, you start to approach obstacles with curiosity instead of dread. What is this situation teaching me? How can it make me stronger? Remember the quote earlier, "What stands in the way becomes the way." Instead of running from problems, resilient people face them head-on, knowing that overcoming them is precisely what leads to growth. Think of a tree that grows roots deeper in a storm. Hardship can ground you more firmly in who you are. You've likely heard the saying, "What doesn't kill you makes you stronger." This is resilience in a nutshell. It's not about never feeling pain or never getting discouraged. It's about bouncing back. It's about refusing to let a loss define you. Each time life pushes you down, your job is to stand up one more time, even if you have to do it slowly and with scars. Over time, you'll notice something amazing. The things that used to break you no longer do. You'll recall past obstacles that seemed impossible and realize you're standing on the other side of them now, wiser and more confident. With resilience, you develop an inner assurance that you can handle whatever comes, and this courage empowers you to pursue your wishes without fear. Each of these mindset shifts, acceptance, detachment, and resilience, reinforces the others. When you accept what you can't change, it's easier to detach from obsessive control. When you detach from outcomes, it's easier to bounce back, resilience, because your whole world isn't shattered if one plan fails. As you grow resilient, it becomes more natural to accept reality and keep moving. Together, they form a strong foundation for a peaceful and purposeful life. Now, these shifts don't happen overnight. They are practices. Think of them like exercising a muscle. You might start today by identifying one thing to accept, perhaps forgiving yourself for a past mistake. Tomorrow, you might catch yourself clinging too tightly to a desire and consciously loosen your grip, reminding yourself you'll be okay. The next time you face a setback, practice resilience by deliberately looking for the lesson in it and affirming that this challenge will pass. Little by little, you will rewire your mindset. We've traveled a lot of emotional ground here. We explored your inner struggles, shined a light on the beliefs that have been holding you back, and discovered how much power lies in your perspective. We talked about embracing acceptance, practicing detachment, and building resilience. These are not just abstract ideas. They are keys you can use to unlock the life you've always wished for. But a key only works if you put it in the lock and turn it. So here's my challenge for you, and it's one that could change everything. Take one small step today. Don't just let this be another inspiring video that you nod along with and then forget. Do something with it. Maybe today you sit down and write out one limiting belief that's been cycling in your mind, and you challenge it in writing. List reasons it might not be true, and come up with a more empowering belief to replace it. Or maybe the next time you catch yourself reacting in anger or frustration, perhaps when plans fall apart or someone disappoints you, you pause and reframe the situation. Ask yourself, How else can I look at this? Perhaps tonight, before bed, you practice acceptance by finally letting go of that grudge or regret you've been harboring, telling yourself, I did the best I could then. I release this now. Or tomorrow morning, start your day with a simple affirmation. I am in charge of how I experience life. I choose to see the good and the possibilities. Say it, and say it like you mean it. I challenge you to do just one thing differently, one thought, one reaction, one choice, in line with the ideas we've discussed. It can be tiny. What matters is that you begin, that you prove to yourself you have this power, because you do. The truth is, you've always had it. Every wish you've ever had for a better life ultimately comes down to a feeling you want. And you can cultivate those feelings from within by changing how you think and act. Imagine yourself a year from now, having applied these mindset shifts day by day. How would life feel? Perhaps you'd be calmer, not so tossed by every inconvenience. Maybe you'd be more confident, no longer dragging the ball and chain of I can't everywhere. You might find that opportunities seem to find you. They were there all along. But now you're finally looking up instead of staring at the ground in defeat. You might even discover that some of your original wishes have materialized, and those that haven't no longer haunt you because you've found fulfillment in the journey itself. This is your life. No one else can live it for you, and no one else is responsible for your happiness. That might feel like a heavy truth, but it's actually the most empowering thing in the world. It means you are the author of your story. If there's one takeaway I want you to remember, it's this: you have a choice. You can't always choose what happens to you, but you can always choose who you'll be and how you'll grow because of it. Every moment is an opportunity to rewrite a bit of your story, to interpret something differently, to break a limiting belief, to try again with a wiser mind and stronger heart. So right here and right now, make a decision. Decide that you are worthy of your wishes. Decide that you will do the inner work, step by step, day by day, to nurture the mindset that will carry you toward those wishes. Decide to be patient with yourself on this journey, and to celebrate even the small victories, each small insight, each moment of calm, each time you choose compassion over criticism or courage over fear. These are the bricks that build the foundation of your new life. In the end, how to achieve every wish in your life isn't about a magic formula or a secret shortcut. It's about realizing that the truest, most important wishes, the wish to feel whole, to feel purposeful, to feel at peace, are achieved from the inside out. And when you achieve those, something beautiful happens. The external wishes start to fall into place, or matter far less, because you are no longer waiting on the world to give you meaning. You are creating it. Your life is waiting. Your wishes are waiting, not somewhere out there in the uncertain future, but right here in the present moment, in the choices you make and the thoughts you nurture. So step into your power, take responsibility for your happiness, and dare to believe that you already have what it takes to live the life you dream of. I believe in you. Now it's time for you to believe in you. Your next chapter begins now, and you hold the pen. Go ahead and start writing your own happy ending. You've got this.